Right, well, good evening, welcome to Restart Sailing 46, slightly late, overwhelmed by the sun and technology here. My name is Simon Lovesley and joined by John Emmett, and later we've got a special guest.
Perfect. Well, yeah, sorry, better late than never. Just shows that the show is obviously recorded live. If we can flick back through the slides, please, Simon, and we'll start at the beginning and finish at the end. So we should have a slide which gives the contents of today.
Yep, that's that one.
No, the contents of the day. The first slide after the opening slide.
Yeah, that's the one we got.
No, you need to keep going to the left. Otherwise, I can do it from memory.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've got that slide on, John.
Okay, so the first slide gives the breakdown of the show. So the first item is actually we've got a lot of regattas coming back to normal, and we've recently had, and you can forgive my pronunciation, the Semaine Olympique Française, the French Olympic week. We've obviously got a special guest on, as we have the OK Dinghies, which is another very popular non-Olympic class, which will actually be having their Worlds coming up fairly soon in the UK. And you're testing my memory for what the third thing is now.
He says why. He says why.
No, well, that's the wrong slide. But it's about campaigning and the cost of campaigning, because I know a lot of young sailors will be thinking about that, and actually that's possibly one of the barriers to the sport.
Okay,
but there we go.
We look at our favourite chart.
If we look at the numbers, as predicted, you can see the number of live cases is going down significantly. We'll be talking very briefly about the worldwide situation, but this is for the UK. The number of deaths, I've levelled it off as usual to the 7-day average, if we can have the next day slide. And you can see that's starting to drop, because of course that has about a 28-day lag, but it is going in the right direction. I just think with all these shows for continuity, it's really important which we keep showing them. So if we have the next slide, which was the one you previously had. No, the international countries. So first of all, we're going to have some countries that are open, like the UK, and obviously this show's primarily got a British audience, but there'll be some other countries which are closed, and I think it's important to talk about that for people who are considering doing worldwide travel. And the third point was to consider why. So for example, for the ILCA 6 class, it's very relevant because we will be looking at having a world championships, or potentially having a world championships in China. I actually think that may have a change of venue, but we will see. And the issue you have for the Chinese is, I think it will be very hard for them to lose face and admit that they need the far more effective American vaccines, which has been primarily what has helped a lot of Western countries to open up. It's the vaccination program. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have an increased rollout to keep sailing going through the winter. So if people are travelling, please do check, not 24 hours before you fly, but 2 weeks before you fly, what you need, whether you need to have a proof of vaccination or you need to have a test. And mask wearing, I would still advise for vulnerable people to protect themselves, even though, as we see, like the French Olympic week, everything is starting to feel much more normal, but there are still countries which are trying to pursue a COVID zero policy.
But I think the important thing, John, is we're trying to live with this now, aren't we? And it's not going away in a hurry, but
well, the UK is trying to live with this. Some countries are trying a COVID zero policy, and that's why we need to think about the entire world and how that affects international sport, and for club sailors or whatever maybe. You're going on your holiday, you still need to think about what you need to do that. But if we can go onto the sailing, I think there's a slide about some of the regional events in the UK. It'll be time for our guest.
We've got the Great British Sailing Challenge continuing. Bit of rescheduling here. The Brass Monkey was due to be in the normal Christmas sort of slot, but got cancelled due to COVID, but has been rescheduled, and I think that's perhaps still the mode of things carrying on, but perhaps a few changes. And this weekend we have the famous Posh Regatta coming up, about 70 boats there, so rebuilding numbers after, well, probably 2 years of cancellations, I think. But these events are starting to come back. People are starting to sort of hit the road again. Obviously, things like fuel costs will have an impact on that. So we get through one challenge and another one comes its way, doesn't it? But I think the circuits are trying to reopen. I think we need to try and support the clubs, don't we? Right, so moving on to our guest.
So I've got to say, I'm really delighted to have Karen here to talk about the OK Dinghy. So if you had asked me 10 minutes ago, I think it was probably touch and go, but we've won the technical battle. Lovely little bit of video just to show how active the OK class is. And yeah, take it away. Just tell us what attracted you to sail the class and what keeps you sailing the class. Assume for people who've never even stepped foot in one.
The OK, it's for me, it was a funny little boat I'd seen in the back of dinghy parks, and I always never really thought anything about it. And I hadn't sailed for a few years, and with some friends, and they'd bought one as a shared boat. I thought, you know what, I'll have a shot in that. And within about half an hour, I was in total love with this little boat. A little boat that I hadn't really thought of anything of before. It's just delightful to sail. It's like a big Europe or a mini fin, depending on which way you want to look at it.
Would you say that the weight range fits in between those two boats then?
Yeah, it's we've got at one end, you've got somebody like Alex who builds the idle boats. He's about 72 kilos, 75 kilos, and he wins when it's windy or it's light. And then you get other folk like Richard Burton, who's well over 100 kilos, and he wins when it's light or when it's windy. So it just seems to fit. It seems to be one of these little boats that you can fit a whole bunch of people in.
Yeah.
And what's that to do with the large adjustment in terms of mast stiffness and bend characteristic? Different sails?
There's a bit of that. There's a bit of hull shape. Some boats are better than others. Like classes like the Solo, there's all sorts of different subtle shapes. So some are better for big people than it is for little people. But it's reg and it's controllable and you can tune it. And I think maybe the hull shape just lends itself to carrying a bit of weight.
So a lot of buoyancy there, I guess. And what would you say the fundamental differences are to say, one design class like an Ilka or when people are thinking about making that choice?
I think the big thing with the OK is it's a really individual boat. You can build them yourselves. There's a big move at the moment around the world to build boats at home again. So in the last Worlds, which some of the videos from there in New Zealand, there was something like 2 or 3 home-built boats in the top 10.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. That's probably have to go back to the 60s or 70s to get something like that. And we've got these laser-cut boats, and you can buy a flat pack and put it together in the garage, and it's as fast as anything you can buy from Movington or Synergy or anything else. But it's also one of these classes where people have good colour schemes. They're not all white.
Yes, I've seen.
my boat in the video there is white, but my other one is
how would you describe it?
It's bright green with Eddie Van Halen stripes on it, and now got red pro grip on the floor. I've
got to say, the first thing I thought is you're pretty obvious on the start line, but I guess that's not the point. One of my
there's at least one other green boat in the British fleet, so now we can never be sure.
You can blame each other. One of my really good friends from Castle Cove seems to have an infinite love of purple, and I always wonder about that on the start line. But if we rewind a bit, I mean, perhaps we should be calling it the resetting show now, because we're trying to encourage grassroots sailing and actually for people to level up as much as possible. What happened with the OKs during the pandemic? Because it was difficult for a lot of classes.
Yeah, I mean, the OK's got quite a big international fleet, so there's a lot in Europe and there's a lot in New Zealand and Australia. So when shutdown happened, immediately all the international circuit just stopped dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Worlds were supposed to be in Marstrom in Sweden, so that had to get cancelled, and it's one of these things, if you're shipping boats from New Zealand,
it's not easy.
Several months to get ahead, so nobody wanted to ship the boat out and then never see it for 2 years, or well, nobody thought it was 2 years at the time.
No, but it happened for the Olympic Games. Some people shipped their boats to Japan early and then didn't see them for, a very long time.
Yes, and then the next year it was like, do you hold one? And then they were going to hold it at Garda. and they decided that the Aussies couldn't travel and the Kiwis couldn't travel, so it's not a proper world. So
But did they?
just have,
Yeah.
They had
So
a
when-
championship.
they had the event as an international event.
Yeah.
So when was the last Worlds then, Karen? Was
The
that-
last Worlds were in Auckland in 2019.
Okay.
The big question is, and I do know the answer. Where's the next Worlds?
Yeah.
The next Worlds are in Marstrom in Sweden in August, but the year after they're in Lyme Regis.
It's coming home.
Yeah,
Coming
and a big British fleet.
A huge British fleet. People are rediscovering the boats. They say, I always thought it was a funny one, but it's such a sweet little boat. And you've got this cracking international circuit, so you see a lot of people coming into the class, like Freddie Luth, he's a gold medalist, isn't he?
Yeah, he won the Star 2012 Olympic Games gold medal. Yeah.
Yeah, he's won a few Finn Gold Cups. He's got
one or two. Yeah.
This is what he does for fun. So it's a boat where he's got nothing to prove. He's there. He's doing it for the fun of sailing little boats again.
It's interesting
really to see that.
Going on tangent. Max's the crew who won the Olympic gold medal in the Star. He was also a Gold Cup winner in the Finn. So there's something about these sort of bigger boats, the more technical, whether you're sailing single-handed or double-handed. But I guess it's a little over 12 months now before the Worlds come to the UK. If somebody wants to get involved in the class and get up to speed, how do they do that?
Boats are tight at the moment. There's a couple of really good boats for sale. Probably the best way is to give one of the builders. So we've got 3 builders in the UK. So Ovington's started building boats, and I think most people regarded it as a bit of an odd choice for Ovies, but they've sold well over 100 boats now. And it's probably one of the boats that you would regard as the benchmark. Then
I'd say they've just completed a new factory up north, so I guess they're ramping up all their productions.
Yes. Well, and Chris Turner, who's the MD of Ovies, he sails one. Lyme Regis is his home club, so he's got a little bit of a. He's got a dog in the fight, isn't he?
Yeah. And the two other builders then, Karen?
Yeah. So we've got Alex Goals out in Norfolk who builds idols, which is what you can see on the screen at the moment. My white boat's an idol.
Yeah.
You have to speak nicely to Alex to see if he'll build you a boat, because he's off doing other things, but he will still build them. And then we've got Simon Cox in Ipswich, who's building the Synergies, and they've won multiple world championships. So there's lots of builders that will build you a boat, but second-hand boats are really tight at the moment.
Hen's teeth.
Hen's teeth. Going back a few years, the pound drops after Brexit, and all of a sudden, the OK fleet was building in Europe. The British boats were really, really cheap, so the French kind of built a whole new fleet from our second-hand market.
And that's happening now, isn't it? Yes.
You can't really blame them with that, but yeah.
But that must be happening now with the dropping pound.
The more people sailing, the better. But just looking at people entering the club, what sort of classes do you see people coming through? And do you have like a youth contingent? I'm just thinking, it sounds like a boat that fits all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, so a few years ago, Will Heritage, whose dad builds 5.5 metres Netchos in Isle of Wight, he got a boat, and he was an apprentice boat builder. He finished it off himself. First nationals at Brixham did really well, and went off to become European junior champion. So Will's only little. He's probably touching 70 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people were trying to twist my arm at the club after a few ciders yesterday, but they didn't quite make it. One event that we didn't mention. When will your nationals be this?
The nationals
this year?
are down in Herne. They're in July, but the 14th to 17th from the top of my head.
Yeah, and how many boats do you think you would expect this year?
We're probably somewhere between 35 and 40. Somewhere that would be a decent turnout, I think. We were just under 40 for Weymouth last year.
Yeah.
So class is growing. We'll probably get about 40.
Brilliant, because I know there's always that elusive 50 mark for the old. Right, you want to push it over the threshold.
We'd love to get that. If everybody turned up, we'd probably have something like 120 boats. But yeah, some people don't like sailing in the sea. Some people like sailing in the river. Not everybody does the nationals. Some people only do the nationals. So it's a right mix.
Yeah, and as Simon said, maybe travel is more of an issue for people this year if things are a bit tight. But if you're going to do 1 week of sailing the Nationals, so how many days is the Nationals?
It's a 4-day Nationals.
4 days Nationals. Yeah, it's a growing trend. It always used to be a week, and then it went to 6 days, and now a lot of classes of 4 or 5 is, I guess.
Well, and that is more cost effective, isn't it? Yeah, accommodation and things like that. And,
yeah, it works really well. You get 4 decent days of racing and a few nights of socialising. Yeah. And the OK's like their nights in the bar afterwards. That's for sure. They're a very social class.
And Karen is a demo boat if someone wanted to give it a go.
Yeah, the class has got a demo boat. We can lend that out. If Richard Burton's the guy to speak to on that. The boat was across at South Cerney, so it does pretty well.
So relatively central, yeah. Okay.
Yep. So we had Ben Harden from Alan sailed at the Inlands last year and did very, very well. Alan were sponsoring us, so it was nice to see him in the boat, and hopefully we'll see him back in his own boat soon. If we can persuade him to buy one.
Yeah, and Rich is the contact for that.
Yeah, Rich is the contact, and then Chris possibly has a boat that he could borrow. I don't want to put words into his mouth.
That might be news to him, but we'll see. Yeah. Brilliant. So, sorry we started a bit late. Karen, thanks so much for your time. I'm sure it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be. It's just nice to talk about boats. That's all the restarting is.
Yes. It's good to get back sailing again, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I look forward to this every month just to talk to people who are super keen about their classes. We're now going to talk very briefly, because I know we started late, about campaigning. And when we use the word campaigning, and Karen, you're very welcome to talk, even though we can't see you, we can still hear you. The idea with the word campaign, it's just about a professional approach, and that can apply if you're a club sailor who only leaves the club for that national championship once a year. It's just the approach. And one of the things when people go full-time sailing, the aspirational sailors, it's quite easy to underestimate the costs. Long story short, I actually first got into coaching because term 1 at university I pretty much spent all my money on beer, and then I didn't have much money left for the rest of the academic year, so I ended up doing a bit of coaching, which was great. I learned a lot, but it did show that I hadn't really sat down and looked at the costs. So this is actually a very old, makes me feel very old, sponsorship letter from before the China Olympics, just sort of breaking down costs and things. And I would just say that a lot of the things that the elite, the professional sailors do are really good, healthy practices for anyone. And that's one of the reasons they're so successful. So yeah, the cost of the campaign, really worth thinking about now at the beginning of the year, because hopefully we're all going to have a very, very busy summer.
Right. And then looking to all a month's time now.
So we have champion Mickey Beckett. This photo is actually from the Princess Sophia. Really glad I meant to track him down. He was the winner there. Also on the podium at the air, but I just felt this was such a nice photo of him. Really looking forward to chatting to Mickey, one of the nicest guys in the world. And hopefully technology will be on our side. He will be in Mexico shortly after the ILCA 7 Worlds, actually coaching for the ILCA 7 Masters Worlds. I will be at the Dutch World Cup in Almere, and I guess, Simon, you're hosting same time zone as normal.
Yeah, British summertime, hopefully.